guys, it's Steve again. We're taking inventory of my pulleys today, and I thought it might be a good time to talk about pulleys and what you may or may not know about pulleys. The earliest pulleys in the United States were made out of wood, often beech, and they were set into a mortise in the jamb and held in with a pin. Okay, those are common in the Northeast, the Atlantic coast. I've seen them where I live in New York, but they're not common here because our settlement was after that of some earlier parts of the country. Your typical 19th and 20th century pulley has three parts. There's the case, the face plate, and the sheave. Okay, those are the three main parts of a pulley. So in the 19th century, from the beginning of the century till after the Civil War, maybe up to the 1870s or 80s, most pulleys had a squared off end. Okay, you see some examples here of that squared off end. The problem with the squared end is that had to be hand chiseled to mortise the faceplate flush with the jamb. In this example, it's a solid brass faceplate. This one's iron like the rest of the pulley. By the last quarter of the 19th century, you'll see rounded pulleys, rounded end. And that's because not only was the mortise through the jamb made with mechanical machinery, but also it was mortised in to set the round end or the faceplate flush with the jamb, all done mechanically. You didn't have to do it by hand. Another example of the round end, and one of my favorites, is called the Common Sense pulley. This is also a cast iron pulley, and the Common Sense was installed, well, the mortise was made with 5 spade fit bits that bored hole through the jamb all at once, but then also made a mortise so that the faceplate would set flush with the jamb. After cast iron pulleys, stamped steel pulleys became common, especially after the turn of the century into the 20th century. Most of us aren't big fans of the stamped steel pulley because they were kind of flimsy, but they lasted a long time, and there were good quality stamped steel pulleys and there were poor quality stamped steel pulleys. Here's an example of a sort of a low-end stamped steel pulley that has barbs like a fish hook, so that once it's hammered in, there's no place for screws here. Once it's hammered in, it does not come back out without great effort. Okay, and if that's the low end of a stamped steel pulley, the high end, I don't have one here, but the high end stamped steel pulley had bearings in here for heavy windows, and that was a good quality pulley. The Anderson Company did not resort to a stamped steel pulley and used cast iron way up into the 20th century, which was just a sign of the quality of what they did. Before I move on in the discussion, I wanted to show you this very unusual pulley. This is the kind of pulley that was used in churches. And if you had clerestory windows or dormer windows that were 2 stories or even 3 stories up in the sanctuary, a rope would go over these. This would be attached to the side of the opening somewhere, and so the rope would open and close, and it would be 2 ropes, and they would open and close a pivoting window with the rope sometimes attached to church pews. It's an interesting system. Looking at the sheaves on a pulley, again, this is the sheave. The sheaves were made to accept specific sizes of rope. I've talked about this before, but rope came in 32nds of an inch. So when we talk about number 8 rope is 32nds of an inch. Number 9 rope is 9 32nds of an inch, and so on. Here's an example of a pulley for a small window, maybe a pantry window, a closet window, even a bathroom window, but one thing for sure, it's for a lightweight window, and you have a very narrow sheave here, okay? And so the rope for that sheave is a number 7, okay? Oh, notice also you have a bottom and a top. The round part is the top. So here's your number 7 rope, which you'll see fits that sheave perfectly, okay? Number 7 is not that common, although some people like to use it because it fits everything very well. Another common sheave size is for number 8 rope. And again, number 8 ropes, 8/32, which is also a 1/4 inch, okay? So here's a stamped metal pulley with the number 8 rope on it. Okay, fits that perfectly. All right, and let's go to a different one. Here's one for a number that accepts a number 10 rope. Now, number 10 rope we don't normally use in a residential setting. It's a little bit heavy, unnecessary, and it's hard to tie a knot that will go in the rope bore with this. It won't fit the bore. But anyway, you'll see that the sheave on this pulley accepts the number 10 rope just perfectly. This would be appropriate for industrial, commercial, or any window maybe in a dormitory somewhere that was fitted with plate glass and very, very heavy, okay? Number 9, which is 9/32, also fits that, okay? And notice again, this one has a top and a bottom. The round is the top part, the squared off part is the bottom, all right? There were also chain pulleys, and a chain pulley allowed the chain to roll over the sheave without it twisting and making noise, okay? So you notice this flat bottom on the sheave. Here's a modern one. I believe I bought this from Harwick, and there's the flat sheave, and the chain, this is heavy duty number 45 solid brass chain, rolls over that perfectly without twisting, okay? And it's a very quiet, fluid movement. Here's another one. I want to talk about this one. Again, you got a bottom and a top. Now this sheave is a hybrid model that no one sells these anymore, but this was made for both rope, so you can see that maybe the number 9 rope fits over that nicely, okay? But also a chain. Now this heavy number 45 chain wouldn't roll over this, but this number 8 brass chain rolls over that nicely. This is a hybrid, both rope and chain pulley. These were common 100 years ago. Don't see them anymore. Sometimes people want to put chain on a rope pulley. Is that okay? Yeah, it's all right. You can do that. But just size the chain so that it fits appropriately into the sheave. If it's too big, it will twist and it makes a grinding noise. And it kind of makes a grinding noise anyway, which annoys people, all right? The reason people might want to use chain on a rope pulley is because chain typically lasts longer than rope does, but the best reason for using chain on a rope pulley is if you live in a balloon frame house where the studs go all the way from the 2nd floor down to the basement, then you'll never lose your weights in the wall like you might with a rope when the rope rots. This is a Stanley Dillon jam-proof pulley. These were introduced in the 1930s, I believe, and you'll notice that they're different from your typical pulley because there's a hood here and a hood here. And these were designed to prevent rope from skipping over the side. Sometimes rope will, especially cheap rope, okay, will jump over the sheath and get jammed between the faceplate and the sheath, okay? And these were designed to prevent that. And you know, that's a great feature. But what I like about the Stanley Dillon pulley is that if I insert my new cord in here, the hood on the other side pushes it down and I can normally catch it inside the pocket, okay? Which is a nice feature. But you have to beware. If the faceplate isn't stamped Stanley Dillon, you may be getting one of the many knockoffs. This is a knockoff, different brand knockoff. Notice they both have the front hood. So on these, if I push my cord in, I'm apt to put in 100 feet and never be able to catch it from the bottom, okay? And because it just seems to wad up here right beyond the pulley. Clearly, when there's a hood on the front of the pulley, you can't throw a mouse over it, okay? So that's one reason it's nice that this will just throw it straight down, because without the hood on the back, then you have to take the plate off sometimes to throw your mouse over it. So there's one more thing I wanted to talk about before we end the discussion. You know, we've talked about the heaviness of the cast iron pulley, heavy duty, versus a lightweight stamped steel. But there's another issue, and that's the depth of the case and how far the case goes into the weight pocket. You see, in comparing these two, this big heavy pulley as compared to this smaller pulley, the heavier pulley, the big one, goes significantly more into the weight pocket than does this one, okay? And that's because the weight for this window might have been that big, while the weight for this one might have been only that big, okay? And so these are chosen specifically for the window at hand. And if you were to have a heavy window with a big weight and use this small pulley, it wouldn't go in far enough and the weight would not hang free of the jamb and it might drag on the jamb. And if you use this one on a lightweight window or lightweight sash, then this weight might drag on the stud on the other side. And so it was important to choose, you know, the depth appropriately and how far these entered into the mortise and the jamb, okay? And that's about all I wanted to talk about, but remember this, you can always check out more information in the Window Sash Bible. You can learn about storm windows in my book, Storm Windows, A Comprehensive Guide, and I hope to have a new book come out after the Christmas holidays. Have a great holiday season. Bye-bye. That was terrible.
No, it was fine. It was fine.